Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the IWFM Rising this evening for the FM Journey in Sustainability with IWFM Rising FMs. We have some great speakers this evening that are joining us. We are just waiting for one just to join us. So hopefully they'll join us in the next couple of minutes.
So he's there now.
Brilliant. Jeff. Brilliant, Jeff. If you can move to the next slide for me. So thank you everybody for joining today's event. I'm sure there's a couple of people that will join us as the presentation goes along. For those of you that are joining the webinar today, the Rising FMs committee are set up as a group of volunteers. We work on a committee and meet every Monday, and we are supporting the industry in terms of newcomers and people who are working in their professional career, making sure that we are able to connect them, support them throughout their career in terms of things like mentoring and any kind of career support. We are trying to make a difference to the profession at entry level and also in the development of careers. And we're going to be doing a lot of work over the next couple of months around newcomers that are coming into the industry, how we work with those newcomers and give them all the support that we can. So we're all about creating a community. We're quite a personable group. We're always keen to get you involved in our events, get involved in anything that we do kind of on Twitter. And obviously, if you've got any feedback really in terms of how we can do better, how we can support you in your career and the work that you're doing, then please do let us know. So we specialise in running relaxed and informal events, a little bit like this evening. This one is on webinar. Unfortunately, we weren't able to go ahead with the in-person event. So if you were planning on going to that event this evening at the Bower, I'm sure we'll get a chance to go back there at some point in the future. But we can only apologise that we haven't managed to do this as an in-person event this time round. I'd like to thank our sponsors. We're working with Assurity Consulting this year, working on our quarterly events, which we'll be announcing shortly. Assurity Consulting are a health, safety and environment consultancy. So Emma Smith there's a nice quote from her. They're very excited to be supporting the critical networking group to promote the industry to the upcoming profession. We've also got annual sponsors: Pear Tree Cleaning, Zen Pest Prevention and Control, Kingfisher Security and Civortex that are supporting us over the next year. So if you do come along to one of our events this year, I'm sure you'll get an opportunity to meet some of those and learn about them a little bit more. So the agenda today. I'm Elliot Valentine. I'm the chair of the Rising FMs. And today we have Jeff. Jeff, if you'd like to just say hello.
Good evening.
So Jeff will be your host this evening. We have a number of really, really fantastic speakers that have joined us today. Neil Fright from Carbon Numbers. What he's going to be talking about, what does an FM need to know about sustainability as part of their role? We also have Dave Carlos from Just One UK. What does good sustainability reporting look like for facilities managers? We've also got Carlos Quiroz, InfoSpeak, and he's going to be talking about the Internet of Things as a key enabler of sustainable facilities management. We are going to have an opportunity for question and answers, and we did a webinar very recently, and at that webinar, there weren't any questions at the end. So what I would encourage everybody to do is, if you've got a question during the event, please feel free to put it into the question and answers chat box at the bottom. Get your questions in as early as you possibly can, and we'll make sure that we are able to come back to those at the end when we get to the question and answers. And we'll get some kind of good questions towards the end. Following this event, we will also send you a feedback form. We always like your feedback, whether it's good or bad. If you think we could do anything better, then please do let us know. But if you simply just enjoy the event, please just, put your comments down. Let us know. It's always great to hear that people enjoy the events and find these events really, really useful. So we are also on Twitter. So the IWFM _Rising FMs. But I've also included the Twitter handles, or the Twitter, the Twitter handles Sustainability and Factman, and also the Twitter names of our speakers today. We've really, if you are a Twitter user, we'd really encourage you to join the conversation, share your thoughts throughout the presentation on Twitter as well. And it'd be great to get some conversations going, not just now, but following the event as well. So please do get involved and make this as interactive as you'd like it to be. So I'm going to, at this point, hand over to Jeff, who'll be your host for this evening, and we'll start with carbon numbers. All right, over to you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. Yeah, so just before I introduce Neil from Carbon Numbers, reason we're holding this event is I myself head up the sustainability department for the company I work for, so it's very much of importance to myself, and I feel it's becoming an increasing importance to everyone really, but especially within the FM arena, who I feel are really one of the industries that are quite ahead of a lot of the other industries, but it's always good to share best practices and knowledge, and so the three great speakers we got tonight will hopefully be able to do that. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Neil.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so I'm here to speak about what does an FM need to do, but I suppose I should explain what I know about FM and where I started. So there's a picture of me. So I've been doing energy management for the last 20 years, but I actually started on a facilities management help desk in the late 90s. And from a facilities management help desk, I went into facilities management and then latterly into energy management. So over the years, I've specialised. I was awarded a fellowship last year to the IWFM, and alongside that, I work with the Energy Manager Association as an ESOS lead assessor. If you want to go to the next slide, Jeff. So sustainability, and sustainability is a really wide church, so I just sort of put the context of energy and facilities management, because sustainability covers many of the other aspects, and I think it's quite important that we talk about sustainability. So, sort of many people understand sustainability to mean different things, particularly culturally. So this is all about the population and the impact of people on the planet and how we can help. Within facilities management, sustainable practices are vital, so that can be everything from your printing to your catering, but particularly around your buildings. Around 13% of the UK emissions come from buildings, and about 23% of that comes from heating in buildings, so that gives you an idea of some of the areas you can impact. And to give you another idea, 2050 targets around net zero, 90% of the buildings that are going to contribute to a net zero UK have already been built. So the existing buildings you're operating and working in are likely to have a significant impact on the future of the planet. Obviously, if we improve the efficiency of buildings, carbon emissions get decreased, and we can have a positive impact. It's also very important to remember renewables, so things like solar and wind turbines, they're very expensive technologies. So actually, if you can use less energy, then the technologies become a lot more cost effective. Next slide, please, Jeff. So there's many things that affect a building performance, and they all start coming on as Jeff frantically clicks. So if you think of a building performance, there's many things that are affecting the buildings that you manage. So from everything from climate change, flexible working. So have you got floors? Have you got buildings where people are not working? Capital budgets. So often capital budgets are put towards life safety and health and safety and critical things, and not always towards energy efficiency. Utility bills are a huge demand on people's resources at the moment. Most businesses are facing up to a 50% increase on their energy bill. So great news for a business like mine, but not so good for the core business. Tariffs are very complicated. You've then got to get into your metering, security of supply, churn, space, stakeholders, emissions. Is your IT insourced, outsourced? And then there's a bit of a skills gap in the UK, well, in the world, around how do you tackle these things. So when you think of a building and people think of how you operate a building and how they think of it as efficient and sustainable, you've got to widen the lens quite a long way to understand that there's many things that could be impacting on the energy usage in a building. A really simple example, buildings that clean at night, say an office building in London that cleans at night, the building will most likely think it's occupied. So you could be using up to 50% too much energy just simply because you've got people in the building at night and the building thinking it's occupied. So you've really got to stand back when you're thinking of building performance. Next slide, please, Jeff. So when you think of energy in your building, I'm going to talk to you about cash, kilowatts and carbon. So there's three different elements you've got to think about when you're thinking about energy management in the building. So cash is about buying energy at the right price. It's about monitoring your usage and sort of helping people change behaviour. So really it's quick wins. It's making sure you're spending the money in the right way. Kilowatts is about actually reducing the amount of energy you're using. So a simple example would be taking an old type of light fitting and replacing it with LEDs. So you're changing the number of kilowatts that are used. So there's a number of different devices, from LED lighting, heating, venting and air conditioning, or HVAC as it's termed, the building energy management system, so the BMS that controls those elements, and then actually managing demand. So that's kilowatts. Then you get into carbon. So actually reducing carbon is about transforming the energy that's being used. So that's about solar, combined heat and cooling, wind, and obviously in the future, lots of people are starting to look at offset. Offset compared to what you have to do in your building is relatively cheap, and it's not really leading people to deliver the right things. But really, when you think of the energy in your building and you think of sustainability around this type of area, you've got to think about cash, kilowatts and carbon. Next slide, please. This is quite a busy slide, but really what it's trying to show you is there's four different areas of things that people can look at. So you've got from the left to the right, you in the big bubbles, you've got supply, so the energy tariffs. Then you've got things around data services, so that's smart metering and advanced metering and targeting, tariff optimization, things like that. Then the next bit is equipment optimization, so actually looking at the kit that's running the building and changing that. And the last one is around remote facilities management and asset management, so actually getting the building to be an asset on the grid. So if you've ever heard the term smart grid, that's all about this idea of your buildings become part of an intelligent grid that's consuming energy. So a simple example, think of a school. So schools have large roofs, but they don't, if they were to put solar on a lot of their roofs, they're not there when most of the time the solar is actually generating energy, say in July and August. Now, everyone is doing something on this journey, and I do describe it as a journey, but not everyone is looking at each step of that journey and understanding that it impacts the other steps. So you've really, again, so alongside cash, kilowatt and carbon, you've got to think of yourself as how are you buying your energy? How are you monitoring your energy? How are you minimizing your energy? And then how are you working as part of a much bigger aggregated picture across a portfolio and indeed the UK. In the future, you'll see utility providers starting to provide quite innovative tariffs around how you can support that. So that's a sort of a capability cycle that you need to think about. The next slide, please, Jeff. So on the left, you can see a four-step process, but really you can see the cash, kilowatt and carbons. And so really cash is all about supply, as we said, and then kilowatts is around your consumption analysis and how that goes into data services. And you might have come across terms such as SECA, Streamlined Energy Carbon Reporting, or ESOS, the Energy Operation Scheme, and 50001, which is the ISO standards. So the ISO standards are global standards of organisations that want to show good energy management practice. And then you really get into the services around carbon and CO2, which is around how you reduce through proactively installing equipment and managing it smarter. So when you're thinking of it as a transformational process for your business, you really need to think of those three elements and start building a picture. And it's a great way to engage your organization and also enhance your own credentials within the organization, because you're helping them with something that will rank in everyone in the business's top 3 priorities. Next slide, Jeff, please. So as I say, a process is a really good way of thinking of energy management. So if you look at sort of 11 o'clock, on this slide, it shows you live alerts and energy performance. So is your building telling you when it's using too much energy? Then you've got a weekly check. So does your building compare its usage compared to the previous week? So a simple check is, did we use more energy this week than last week? Why? Then you've got some ideas around doing monthly service and energy reports. Have you got a team that's actually looking at energy in the building and servicing assets, not necessarily based on ppm or statutory, but based on performance? So many of you will have modern cars. Modern cars are now not serviced on an annual, you've had the car 12 months, please take me into garage. Your car tells you based on performance when it needs a service. Then start to think about quarterly audits and innovations. It's very easy with this subject to get overwhelmed with the number of innovations that are in the market. So part of what we talk to our customers about is, if you start to think of them on a quarterly basis, you can start to target things and really drive value, and then also involve lots of the wider stakeholders around the innovation. And many businesses are now looking at yearly accreditation and goal setting. So this is much more around the ISO standards and actually being able to validate what you're doing. Larger businesses have to also include in their annual accounts now a carbon report that's signed off by directors. So actually having goals and having that yearly accreditation helps you and those directors understand where you are on that journey. And as I say, if you think of this as daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, it gives you a lot of value in terms of how you can show to your organization what you're looking at. And also, if you're looking at a quarterly review, when someone comes up with a good idea, you can say to them, yep, we'll look at it, but let's appraise it as part of this process. And it lets you hopefully keep a bit of control of a subject that has many, many different ways of doing it. And next slide, please, Jeff. So the one thing I would say as well is, what you shouldn't do is hide your carbon emissions behind a tree. So there's a lot of talk of offset. Offset is a legitimate thing around actually buying trees or buying carbon capture projects. But really, the first thing any business should be thinking about is, how much are we using and how can we impact it? Just simply offsetting by buying a forest, if you like, or saplings, or actually an innovation project, really isn't helping you or your business show it's sustainable. There's a term that's growing in the market called energy conscious organizations. So part of this idea is that businesses can demonstrate that they're making meaningful and tangible steps to change their behaviors to impact the environment. And that, if facilities management and the IWFM and all of us associated with grab hold of it, that's where transformational change can come to help the planet. So next slide, please, Jeff. So my takeaway, so if you please think of energy in 3 ways: cash, kilowatts and carbon. One little strapline you might like, think planet. So China is always often highlighted as the major emitter in the world of carbon and emissions. But if everyone in China lived like everyone in America, we'd need 3 planets of natural resources. So whilst China is the biggest emitter, it's also the biggest population. Westernized countries, and particularly America, uses much more energy per person than China. So actually we all have to help the planet by doing our bit, and not just look at some of the bigger emitters and say, just because they're bigger emitters, they're the problem. And as I say, our buildings in the UK, you've got to think about 90% of the emissions that you're going to manage are already in buildings that exist, and you guys have an ability to reduce that by about 60% if you wish to. That's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Much appreciated. We have got a couple of questions, so we can pick them up at the end. As a company going through the ISO 50001 at the moment, very much know about the importance of energy and its processes. So I'll now hand it over to our next presenter, who is Dave Carlos from Just One. Someone I know very well, having used them for DOC cleaning for our ESG strategy and reporting. So over to you, Dave. I am aware that he is a very popular person, so he does have another event tonight, so he may have to shoot off straight after his talk. But if there is
I'll
any
try and
questions,
stick around. I think I'll be all right.
you'll be okay.
Try to manage.
If that isn't the case, and there is any questions, then obviously still ask him, and we can answer them at a later date. Right,
Thanks,
over
Jeff.
to you.
So just to start off with, that's me. Maybe just go back to the title slide, if that's okay for a second. So I was asked, what does good sustainability reporting look like for facilities managers? Now, I've been in sustainability for coming up on a couple of decades now, and I have read a hell of a lot of sustainability reports. So what I'm going to tell you today is to kind of cut through all the stuff that's out there, all the different standards and whatnot, and really get to the heart of what reporting is about. And so we'll get right into it. Thanks. That's me. We can go to the next slide. So just to tell you a little bit about Just One, so you know there's some credibility behind this. So we are Just One. We believe that one business, one person, one conversation can make the world of difference. Too often we hear, I'm just a two-person company, or we don't have, we're a digital company. What reach and influence? What do we have to offer? And I was always saying there's something to offer. It can be reach, it can be influence, it can be your brand, it can be many different things. Our purpose is to spark positive change, and it's very important for you to, or every business, to articulate their purpose, which we'll talk about in a bit. Thanks, Jeff. So also a little bit about us. Most of my team have come from the property sector, and our current property base is there, including a number of offshoots from direct like in property. So developers, occupiers, and investors, of course, but you'll see a number of cleaning companies, facilities managers, and fit out companies. So it's very important that all of these things are tying in, and we're bringing that knowledge together. Thanks. So the question, what does sustainability reporting look like for FMs? And the answer, it looks like good communication of real sustainability action. That's it in a nutshell. Too often I'm hearing from various different companies when they come to us and say, we want our sustainability report. Great. Why are you doing it? You really want to communicate to your various different stakeholders your progress. Now, what is that progress? You need to take action first. And to take action, you need a plan. 3 bits. So this is essentially what we're combating with. Who cares? Who cares if you have a sustainability strategy? A sustainability report. It's come out recently that most of the people that read sustainability reports are the investors that are trying to figure out whether they should invest in a company, and it's not even them; it's their analysts. So there's been a lot of talk right now of, should we put so much time and effort into a report? And I'm here to tell you the answer is probably no, but there's ways in which you can go about this, and it really depends on your brand and your company as well. So let's quickly look at the things that are driving this. First of all, we really want a livable planet. As Neil had said, 30% of UK emissions come from buildings, 23% from heating of buildings. That means you in the room have a lot of influence to combat this. You're able to make changes that will really move the dial. Also to note that 40% of the world's carbon emissions come from buildings. So FM has a real big part to play. The second bit is to have happy and healthy people. We spend 90% of our time indoors, so well-being is really quite an important issue. Not just air quality, but natural light, sound, smells, absolutely everything affects our well-being. So as facilities managers, of course, you need to pay attention to this. 80% of occupiers say that their ethics are the main driver here. There is a moral imperative here. People are literally, and I don't like talking about the bad things in the world, like wildfires and that are burning right now, the hurricanes, different flooding everywhere. We know this. Climate change has I don't like talking about it because climate change has the best comms around it. Where they're doing it, the climate change is doing it themselves. So we have a moral imperative as well for future generations to do this properly. Investors are really pushing the boat out now this year more than ever. And when investors are saying that they want to only invest in ESG companies that are doing really well in ESG, excuse me, that is when the money talks. And the trickle down effect down the supply chain, a direct investment is real estate, then you have fit outs and cleaning companies and whatnot. It will move throughout every part of the supply chain. Attracting and retaining the best talent is really important. People want to work for companies with purpose, but also companies that make progress. So a recent big survey had come out, and it said that a lot of the top talent will look at a company's website to see if they have a sustainability strategy, if they have a D&I strategy, and then they want to see progress. If you don't have those things, they won't even apply. Also, just to note in terms of facilities management, we constantly hear of cost savings for sustainability. Absolutely, it is a good driver, but it's not seen as a revenue stream. And when we start to talk as cost savings as revenue, your leadership become very excited about this. And how are you going to use that revenue to invest? Net zero, of course, is the big buzzword right now. There's a lot of commitment out there, but there's to have actual roadmaps that are very tangible that move you through to net zero is really important. And Neil talked a little bit about offsetting. It is an absolute last resort. We are not at a point in the world where we can actually hold back anymore. We need to put all our efforts into fighting climate change. And now is essentially not enough. We need to look very far into the future to understand the impacts. We at Just One are working with a holiday company that has a lot of property by the coastal areas. We know for a fact that those properties are going to fall into the sea in a decade or two. So there's a lot of mitigation, adaptation that needs to happen. And just the last thing to say here is that we really need to think of environmental, social, and business issues all together. Thanks, Jeff. So let's break this down. What is real? We're going to talk about what is real sustainability action in the first instance, what is good sustainability reporting, and then what is effective sustainability communication. Communication is where you want to get to. I think, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So first thing to do is to understand your purpose. So at Just One, we went through a workshop that we give to our clients. We test everything on ourselves, and our purpose is to spark positive change. When you can make business decisions in line with your purpose and not just to make money, you end up making more money. You saw in the time during COVID and lockdowns, a lot of businesses couldn't sell their stuff. So they pivoted to their purpose and were able to help people a lot more. Whether you saw gin distilleries making hand sanitizer, for example. So start with why, understand your purpose. And there's been a heck of a lot of research out there to show that companies that do outperform their competitors. And they do these through these 5 things that you see on the screen. So purpose is very important. Now let's look at what action is. So don't just guess, know what your issues are. Don't just say, oh, I think we need a recycling program. Oh, we should cut our carbon. Let's go through a process to really understand what issues you should be addressing so then you can report on it and can communicate it. So just very quickly, Jeff, you can move through the whole first blue bit for me. Thank you. It's just a very quick overview of how to determine what issues are relevant for your business. Look at, and this is how we help our clients as well. It's tried and tested method. Look at what you're already doing. Baseline everything from your carbon to your, how you hire, how you communicate sustainability, everything. We will look at your sustainability strategy, your business strategy, and see where the sustainability touch points lie. Look at what your peers and competitors are doing. Very important, stakeholder review and engagement. Make sure that you're talking to all your customers, your employees, your investors, your communities in which you operate to understand their needs, priorities, and barriers. Look far into the future by looking not just at legislation, but very far ahead into what the risks are, and then talk to the rest of your team to put them through an exercise to really understand those risks and opportunities. Materiality is another buzzword that you're hearing. It must go in. I think it's like the foundation of creating a sustainability plan, and that should be communicated in your report. But remember, it's just a foundation. You need to do a lot more on top of it. So that this process will let you know what issues to address. Now you need to set some goals against them, make sure that they're stretching. Materiality will help you understand where the top issues that come out of this need the more ambitious goals, time, energy, resource, and money. So now you have an understanding of where to put your resources and also the issues that you don't need to deal with as a business. You're only doing the things that drive value. And of course, a really good governance system, you have to manage this whole strategy and then start to communicate it. Thanks, Jeff. Oh, and the last little bit down there is the next step, take action. So what is sustainability action? Well, action, first of all, needs a plan. So that process I showed you will actually get you to this point. So, and you, again, something that now gives you a basis of how to report properly. So understand your purpose. Set a vision statement to understand your company's level of ambition. Where do you want to be in a few years' time? Understand your how. You've done that materiality assessment, as they say, understood the sustainability issues that are most relevant to you. And these are a good mix of social, environmental, and governance. And lastly, the what. And that will get you to the yearly targets and what actions are you actually going to take, your initiatives, you're changing things within the business, you're communicating to different stakeholders within the building to get them to cut energy, for example, or to help their well-being. Thanks, Jeff. So just why, where, how, and what. Now, if you think of that, that's a good story. Every story needs a how, why, where, and what. Also a who. And the who is your stakeholder. So when we look at what good sustainability reporting is, I like to say you need to communicate your purpose, your plan, your progress, and make it a page turner, essentially stories. So I've just laid out in the white sections down here, almost like what pages would look like in your report. Always put your purpose first, start with why, and go from there. So we have commitment, so it might be a CEO statement. Put your strategy in there. How are you going to manage it? Be open and honest about progress. And I can't stress this enough. If you're doing a sustainability report, nobody wants to hear all your flag waving all the time. It doesn't do much. People don't align with that sort of brand narrative. What they want to hear is vulnerability. What were your challenges? What didn't work? What did you learn from it? And what will you do in the future? If you keep flag waving, they're more likely to think, oh, there's a bunch of stuff over here they're not doing. So be open and honest. And then page turners to tell stories. Stories are really effective in human learning. That's how we've learned things over the course of time. An Excel sheet isn't the way that we learn. So if you're telling a story and you want to hit the most people and get them to remember it, that's the way to do it. Thanks, Jeff. Now, I could have done this whole presentation on standards, and there are a hell of a lot out there. Sustainability professionals do not make it easy. There's a lot of acronyms in this, and I definitely won't go through them all. On the left-hand side, GRI actually mapped out quite a number of them, but you have to do what is right for your organization and what your clients are asking for. GRESB is so I'll just pull out a couple. GRESB is the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark that's used across the board, particularly from investors to understand a company's mix. TCFD, very important. This flips the whole concept of reporting when we think of reporting, we say, right, I've emitted this much carbon, and this is the effect on climate change. TCFD flips that to say, climate change is happening. How is it affecting my financial performance, my bottom line, and helps you to mitigate risks for the future? CDP is another carbon one. Sustainable Development Goals on the bottom left there is really great. It's a global initiative, and anything you do can be aligned to that, and you can communicate it. GRI is a great reporting initiative. And Social Justice Charter, I would highly recommend you look at. It's just been launched last month, and it helps put the stakeholder voice in the heart of running your business. So have a look at that. Thanks, Jeff. And because Jeff invited me, I thought I'd use them as a case study as well. So they've done their first year report and really quite proud of it. It's not a progress report. It is a report to launch their strategy. So they've gone through all that process that we've talked about. And now they have a very clear plan of how to make change for the future. And they were also resourcing within the organization, able to talk about it externally. So this report is one way in which they're talking about it. So they've launched their strategy, and you go to the next one. This is the senior commitment and the purpose. You can see their 4 focus areas that we mentioned. Thanks, Jeff. You can go to the next one. Each focus area, as you can see on the right-hand side here, lays out long-term goals very specifically, and they're very open about it. So they have to show progress against it because it's in the public domain now. Also, as I said, very good stories. Make it personable, make it emotional, and just hear from your stakeholders to understand what has been the overall impact on their lives because of your sustainability program. And of course, take the data in there and really communicate it well. Not just a plethora of it, but very succinctly, simply, so that anybody can understand it. I always like to say, if my mother could understand it, then we've done a good point of communication. Thanks, Jeff. So I'll leave you with this last bit. So what is effective sustainability communication? Use your report as a way to gather all of this information together, put it in one place. It doesn't have to be a PDF or a printed document. It can be a microsite, so you can report almost live. You can report quarterly as you wish, but just tell your stories and get the information out and be open and vulnerable. When you do good communications, then you have your report. Take out that information and do really good targeted communications. So if you're talking to your employees about sustainability, that's a different way in which you're talking to your clients or you're talking to your investors. So make sure that it's very targeted, and a blanket report doesn't do that. And a lot of people just won't go through many pages. So just some tips here: make it simple, make it all your messages, make it simple, unexpected, credible, concrete, emotive, and use stories. And this could be on social media, it could be posters on the wall, it could be the meetings that you have, an event that you hold, all of these things. And my last few tips here, again, open and honest, relatable and personal. Don't use jargon. There's too many acronyms in sustainability. Make it very visual. Avoid greenwash. That's a big one because there's a lot of legislation now coming out about greenwash. Avoid greenwash, and especially in words, action, and images. Make the report accessible and your communications. And lastly, get guidance. Quick bit from a word from your sponsor now. Next one. Thanks, Jeff. Just to say a little bit about us. So we are walking the talk. We have our own strategy. We are learning things as we go so we can advise our clients better. Thanks, Jeff. So you can take a look at that online. And lastly, just to say, help is here. We're very much committed to helping businesses of all sorts. And so we've developed a very unique way to help any size business, from a global entity to a 2-person band. We have a tiered fee system. We even work with charities and non-for-profits that is below profit, so the whole system feeds itself. We really want to spark positive change. So I hope that we can help you along the journey. And if you don't have any resource to put next to this to start off with, we can come help talk to your leadership teams to get that buy-in, or even talk to you how to do a number of these things yourself for free. Thanks. I hope I didn't go over time. I probably did.
Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated. And obviously, as someone who's gone through the processes that you mentioned, it really helps you understand everything about what you want to do as a company. So thank you very much, Dave. Finally, we now move on to our last speaker of the evening, which is Carlos Cuevas from InfraSpeak, who will talk about how IoT and sustainability can interlink, helping facilities management. So Carlos is going to share his own slides, so I'm just going to stop sharing mine. He will share his, and then it'll be over to Carlos.
Thank you very much. Everyone, see my screen now, right now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So welcome everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you everyone for inviting us. My name is Carlos. I worked following the panelists before. I've worked in facilities for more than 12 years, so around 10 years in energy management. And then I'm 2.5 years now in InfraSpeak. InfraSpeak is the first intelligent maintenance management platform. So we do work with facilities every day. As you can see, we are quite obsessed with data that is turned into actions, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. And we do work with a lot of very well-known logos in the UK and in 29 countries. But what brought me here today was not to present InfraSpeak, but to talk about sustainable facility management. So this is quite a buzzword, and I tried to have a very simple definition of what that can mean. What does it mean, sustainable facility management? And I didn't ask ChatGPT, I promise. So I just browsed through some university concepts and so on. So being simple, it's to ensure that each building has a greatly reduced or even neutral impact on the environment. So the facility manager job is to be able to create a way of or a practice of facility management that guarantees that the building that is managed will greatly reduce or have neutral impact on the environment. But we all know that facilities are more and more complex these days, and it's actually very easy just to say this. But we all know that facility managers struggle because they have conflicting challenges, because we need to avoid energy waste. We need to still be on budget every time, but we still need to deliver good experience to the facility users. A lot of the time we have lack of control. So we need to know what is happening now so we can act, but the ideal scenario is for us to perceive and know what will happen next and what I can do next. And one of the things that I come across more and more on this job of helping facilities dealing with their operations is people really want to make decisions, but they don't have data to base those decisions on. Okay, that's one of the biggest struggles I see. And that's why the basis for me, for all sustainable facility management strategies, is to have data. But it's not random data, okay? Random data or data that nobody checks doesn't have value. We need good data, okay? Good data, it's real time, it's accurate, and it's consistent. If you have this type of data in your hands as a facility manager, you can make informed decisions, then you can take actions, and then you'll be in control. And that's why IoT is so important in so many complex problems we have today in facilities, because it's a very cost-effective way of gathering good data from our infrastructures, regardless if they are new or outdated constructions. All of you know that you find buildings where you're doing facility management that already have some sensors, that already have some BMS systems, but the easiness of today's IoT landscape allows us most of the times to have like a plug and play approach to while we are retrofitting a construction, and we can immediately gather data from assets or the building, so we can work on that data for those decisions. And that's why the last McKinsey report points to 70% of the companies wanting to deploy IoT devices in the next 24 months as one of the top 3 priorities for all the companies that want to digitally transform their business. Okay, so when McKinsey talks with their clients about digital transformation, clients immediately talk about IoT because they perceive this value of being able to talk with their infrastructures. And by doing that, all your problems are solved as FMs, right? Wrong, obviously. And why? Because, as I said, all of us came across facilities that gather huge data sets that nobody looks into, or thousands of alarms that are simply redirected to a folder in Gmail called Ignore BMS alarms. And we all saw a lot of reports showing beautiful graphs of the behavior of the facility, but at the end of the month, we are surprised that we are out of the budget in energy, or that our users are not satisfied. Okay, the reason why this happens is because a facility is a living environment where people and systems have constant interaction, and no single data point will tell the whole truth about the building. So basically, am I saying exactly the opposite of what I just said in the last slide? No. What I'm saying is, with the colossal challenge of sustainability, facility managers need to use technology to integrate data, to analyze data, and super important, to correlate data. In your building, you'll have equipments, you have software runnings, you have IoTs, hardware measuring a lot of data, and you cannot forget the users. The users are a very, very powerful data gathering point, regardless if it's direct data inputs when they are doing their maintenance, when they are doing their reports, when they are evaluating the facility. But the most important is to correlate all the data that you have in one building to then do informed decisions. That's where you need a platform. You need a platform, you need technology to be able to do this. Because if you have only siloed information about energy, about building occupancy, or any other stuff, you won't be making good decisions. The only good decisions you'll be making is when you start having that information correlated and helping you make the best decisions. Is only where assets, IoT, and people are put together with a single goal of building the foundations of sustainable facility management. So, recapping what we just said, there are very simple and doable 3 things that you can do now to put your facility into your facility management practice in towards the sustainability role. You need data, good data. You need a platform, you need technology to be able to concentrate, correlate, and work that data so you can make decisions and take actions. And if you do this, the results are outstanding. The last reports I've read from Green Star, US Green Building Council, Cornell University, McKinsey, and so on, pointing to a huge reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, up to 35%, just by applying sustainable facility management. This one we know very well at InfraSpeak. Maintenance, it's a core part of sustainability practice in a facility, and you can account up to 20% less maintenance costs compared with similar buildings without this sustainable approach. And you have a very curious fact for everyone that works at facilities with a lot of people working there, that you can call tenants, is that there's a 44% improvement in overall productivity for facilities that are managed through a sustainable facility management approach. Because when you do that, you will be always obsessed by being sustainable, and being sustainable always leads to having a healthy environment inside a facility. And people that work and live in healthy facilities have a much better productivity. Okay? That's why it's time to change. And you need to act now. You need to go to those three words: data, platform, actions. You need to look into what you do today, and you need to make your plan, and you need to know where you want to go. That's our contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. Much appreciated. Thank you to all three speakers. I hope you found their talks and information helpful. And if we just hop over to the questions then. And starting with, apologies, one from Neil. The cash kilowatt carbon summary is great. How do you think that this could be used by FMs to present the best pitch to their clients for integrating a considered energy strategy into their business and CapEx planning?
I think the key is to think short, medium and long. So most businesses will look at the short, the cash and the kilowatts, the carbon's long. So I think if you present things around the three areas and then you start to talk about recycling funding, you're starting to get the business to understand that you understand the business behind energy reduction. It's very easy just to say, oh, I can save energy. By explaining it in these terms, you sort of segregate out the price of the energy in the market, you're segregating out the bigger picture. And I think if you do that, then you are showing you've got a strategy, and it also lets you actually plan a lot longer term. The CapEx planning in most businesses cripples energy works because there's a sort of a 2-month cycle of planning, a 10-month cycle of delivery, and no one really commits past the 12 months. If you start to talk to them about carbon, then that changes how they think.
Thank you, Neil. Next one from Michael Bristow. I'll probably put this to all three of you, actually, but I'll start with Carlos. Technology is changing all the time. How often do you revisit the ideas and processes that you have implemented?
I can say that we are challenged. I think all of us will be aligned. Like, we are constantly challenged, like every day. Okay, I'm not saying that we do change things in a daily basis, but we do get feedback in a daily basis because all around the world, sustainability is a topic, and new technologies are being built every day. I think what's important is really for the facility managers to filter what are their real pains today and not let themselves being guided by just a fancy trend of applying a specific technology. So applying technologies that actually tackle their pains, that really help them achieve sustainability. That will be my recommendation.
Thank you, Carlos. Dave, same question.
I think association bodies can do a really great job here at collecting research across the world, bringing forward new technologies, especially for facilities companies that are smaller and don't have big research teams or innovation teams, or even a sustainability manager sometimes. I think there's also something to be thought out. It's not just technology when you're trying to innovate, it's around process as well. And always think, why are you trying to do something? So I'll give you an example. There is an office company that we were working with, and they were trying to help the well-being of their staff. And of course, they already looked at air quality and noise and sights and smells and all this sort of stuff. But it wasn't until they brought someone in just into their common spaces to say, right, have you actually thought of what sound is doing here? And they realized that there was so much white noise, ambient noise, that it was drilling into people's heads without them even knowing about it. So they actually put sound barriers up, and in some areas put in very calming music. When I say you got to focus on what you're looking for, you're trying to affect the well-being of people. You're trying to make them feel more well. So it's not always about the metric or the, yes, we've done this lighting thing, or yes, we've done that. Think about the overall experience and what you're aiming for. And that's what long-term goal setting really does. Gives you a something to really keep your eye on. So if wellness is your long-term goal, you're looking for many different things, not just technology, but also process.
Thank you, Dave. And Neil.
So if you recall, I'm a big fan of quarterly planning and reviewing things quarterly. I think ideas are coming from everywhere, and I often talk to my customers about the simple lies and complex truths. The simple lie is someone's going to come out with something that's going to save you 15-20% of your energy tomorrow. The complex truth is that there's data that will be behind some of that stuff that you need to evaluate. So for me, if you look at the ideas and then research behind them, then you'll start to understand it. I think if you look at it too often, you can get snow blind, as in there's too much out there that's coming. So actually listing them and then seeing what's emerging and what's actually sustaining is quite good, but let your data tell you where you need to go.
Thank you, Neil. Right, question for Dave. Hi, Dave. This is from Anthony Atkinson. Hi, Dave. I was looking through your website and I came across the Empower 2025 vision, which mentions social value. Towards the end of your presentation, you briefly mentioned it, but could you talk a little bit more about the S in ESG and why it's important when forming a comprehensive sustainability strategy?
Wow. Okay. This is a big ball of wool. So I went to UK Reef this year, the biggest real estate conference in the UK. A third of the talks, and it was the talk I was giving as well, was something on social sustainability. The reason is because a lot of the environmental talk has gone on for so long. They're realizing that social is a massive factor in terms of achieving your environmental goals. So a lot of companies, for example, have really robust net zero strategies, or everything on paper looks great and a great roadmap, but the culture isn't allowing for change. There isn't a culture of change in the business, so people don't like change. I mean, humans just generally don't like change. But if you're able to embed that culture, it's really important. That's employees. That's one thing. Social sustainability is like looking externally as well. So what are your clients in the buildings looking for? You can't have a blanket approach to health and well-being, for example. It's very bespoke to the country you're in, the city you're in, the area you're in, the building, the people, the mix, and the diversity of the people as well. So you have to really listen to them. And this is why I'm really a big proponent of the social justice charter. It helps you to really listen to your stakeholders, the people that you are impacting most by your business, understanding their needs, priorities, and barriers, and then setting goals alongside them. There's a lot of talk on social value, and the way I think of social value like a carbon footprint. It's a good strategy tool, but in itself is pretty meaningless. Social value are basically, you can put a financial number next to a social activity like volunteering or something. This has come from the UK's history of talking about social value. So the government at some point said, you know, your beach cleanup initiative, we're calculating this as so much financial social value because we don't have to send cleaners to go clean that beach. So it was a kind of proxy for what the government didn't have to spend because the private sector is doing it. So use it as a tool, but what you're really looking for is not just, so whatever you do within your business, you're affecting social value, social impact on people's lives, and then of course, social justice. And we need to think of social justice as the bigger prize here. It's creating fair systems in your business that help everyone. Just like in the environmental sphere, you cut your carbon and you're affecting climate change, and biodiversity is the larger prize. There's a lot to be talked about on social and the interconnectivity between ES and G. So happy to have any further conversations if you want to email me.
Thank you, Dave. And yeah, as a signatory to the Social Justice Charter, I can definitely advocate it in terms of helping now and the future. And final question, I believe, is to Carlos. Again from Anthony. Hi, Carlos. I think you highlighted the importance of data really well. I'd love to know how we can get our clients, typically not FM experts, to take their FM data seriously enough to justify spending on sensors. Whenever data visualization platforms are pitched, it's typically met with rolling eyes.
Anthony, what I can say is that it's not a surprise for me that when data visualization platforms are pitched, it's typically met with rolling eyes. And I do think my experience is that it's usually related to what I just said in the last intervention is. It's really important that the client knows his pains, so you can select the best technology to help them on those pains. And what I feel is that when I talk to clients, people often say, okay, I've been talking with 20 solutions already that present data, but what am I going to do with that? And my sense is that if that happened, is because nobody asked what was the pain and made a direct correlation between the pain and how the data will help to solve the pain. It's just, this is what we have this data, take it. And I don't think that's the process that nobody should work these days. And I think it's really see how an important or an informed decision can be the difference between having an asset well maintained or with a good life, or having an asset or a building or a facility very badly maintained and with clients not satisfied at all. So I think it's really up to this connection between the pain and the pains that the data can solve.
Thank you, Carlos. Again, having experienced putting sensors into buildings recently, yeah, totally agree. Very important to inform them the pain, what the problem is, and how you're going to solve it, rather than just talking about how great the platform itself is. It's defining the problems and the benefits out of that. So no, thank you for that. So I believe I'll just double check, but I think that's all the questions answered. So I will pass back over to Elliot, and I'll just share the slide again. Apologies. Right, over to you, Elliot.
Right, thank you very much, Jeff, for handing that over. Can I just thank the speakers this evening? I think that has been full of amazing tips there, full of energy. I think we can all as FMs relate to some of the issues that were spoken to about today. Me personally, talk about things like sensors and trying to tell clients, why investing in sensors and providing data, etc., like things like that would kind of give you useful information and allow you to manage kind of buildings better. It's definitely a kind of something that I'm dealing with at the moment in terms of the estate that I'm running. So thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you to everybody that has joined in with the webinar tonight. I know we've had a slight overrun, but I'm just going to wind this down and just give you the final updates. CPD number for this event is on the screen, 3279851. So if you do have a membership with the IWFM, one of the advantages of your membership is that if you log onto your account, you can access your CPD area. That is a great area to record the events that you've been attending throughout the year. That could be either in person or your webinar events, just leaving a little bit of information on there to record the event and what your learnings were. It is encouraged that, as part of your personal development, that you do attend as many of these events as you possibly can, just to improve your knowledge, engage with experts within the industry, and to just understand what is out there that can kind of help you. So supporting you as a member, you get access to exclusive events and networking opportunities, career guidance, and a subscription to the Professionals Leading publication. So if you are a member, you do get different levels of membership depending on your experience and your training. You do get access to the new community groups forum, and there is the opportunity to have discounts on things like training courses as well. Just giving you some update on the upcoming courses. These are proving hugely popular. So if you are interested in any of these events, we've got the Building Safety Act for FMs. There is a booking deadline there, but there's also the introduction to FM for those that are newcomers to the industry or looking for a career in the industry as well. The Rising FM's next event is an in-person event. It's at the Kia Oval Cricket Stadium. This will be on Wednesday the 19th of July. As part of this, there will be a tour, but there will also be a presentation on air quality in the workplace and reducing pathogens, ion distribution, and minimising noise. So this one is a event where we've got limited spaces on this one. So if you are interested in this event, we are teaming up with the London region on this one. Please do book early to avoid disappointment. And for this event, please arrive no later than kind of 5 o'clock-ish. The tour will start shortly after. Massive celebration year for the IWFM this year. It's their 30th year celebrations. We kicked this off as a committee at the recent facilities show, celebrating 30 years of advancing our profession with some cakes, a raffle, and a really successful networking event there. please do watch out over the next couple of months, because the celebrations will be continuing with your local regions around August and September. So please watch out for those events and be part of those celebrations. I've already mentioned the Community Groups Forum. The Community Groups Forum is a great way to engage with the IWFM community, but also the SIGs and the regions that are out there. So if you do have any questions, this is a great way to connect direct with your SIGs and get your questions answered. The IWFM Impact Awards. So for all of those people that have put themselves forward as for an award, I know that the judging panel is meeting at the moment. The IWFM Rising FMs would like to obviously wish all of those up for awards the best of luck in this year's Impact Awards. But please do also remember that you can be part of this award night. It's a massive event in the IWFM calendar. It's at the Marriott Grosvenor in London. So please get your tickets for that now. You can see there that the headline sponsor is Wasteful Wonder. We also have if you scan the QR code there, you can have access to the Insight document there. You may wish to read that in your own time. The Market Outlook Survey, a great document looking at the year just gone and trends in the market in the year ahead. Again, you can scan that document or you can access that through the IWFM website. So the Insight Hub is a great place to have a look on the IWFM website. That's where you're going to find all of your knowledge information there. Yes, you know, your briefing papers, checklists, your discussion information. So a good point to direct you for information if you're looking for some additional information to read up on. And the Navigating Turbulent Times webinar series, that's every Wednesday between 12 and 1. These webinars are recorded, so if you do have a little bit of time in maybe your lunchtime on a Wednesday, please do connect with the IWFM webinar series, Navigating Turbulent Times, which is a long-running series and full of different topics, particularly around things like sustainability and net zero at the moment. And that brings an end to our presentation today. Once again, thank you everybody for joining us for today's webinar. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I do hope that you join us for a webinar or one of our events very, very soon. Thank you again to all of our speakers. You've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.